things I have found in my years of activism working to push for more research for organic methods and more biological management strategies is that nobody likes to use bad pesticides. And they use what works, conventional growers. And as the organic world has pushed for softer management strategies and pointed out some of the real long-term problems of a scorched earth method of growing food, more and more of the scientists and the farmers are realizing that softer strategies, more biologically based, are better for everybody. They're quicker to get field workers back in the fields. They're easier, much easier on the beneficials. They don't get so many secondary pests. I mean, what growers have found over time is you use one pesticide to control a certain pest, and all of a sudden you never had this next number 2 pest before, and now because it's natural predators have all been killed off by the pesticides that were applied to control pest number 1, now all of a sudden, when you've never had a mite problem, now you've got mites eating everything because all the beneficials are gone. And as you know, we've learned more about cover cropping and the importance of rotations and the importance of organic matter in soil. More and more farmers, conventional growers, production is what they like to call themselves, are seeing the benefits of functional rotations to manage problems and build organic matter in the soil. They use less diesel to do field work when the soil is in better shape, and they use more cover crops. They don't need so much fertilizer. They don't lose so much soil to wind and water erosion. You know, there's just all kinds of benefits to some of the systems that are integral to organic farming. And they get interested in them. They see the results, and maybe they don't become organic farmers, but they integrate some critical practices that are old, that's not new, that they left out when they all switched to chemical fertilizers and chemical pest management. So organics is driving the way that scientists look at pest management strategies. You know, that grower that I told you about that showed up with his tractor, I need growers like him in the Skagit Valley. There are fewer and fewer tractor dealerships and fertilizer salespeople and all, you know, packaging supplies and all the infrastructure that supports a vibrant and vital agriculture disappears when the number of farmers that use these services shrink. And years ago, rural sociologists in California did a study that's actually quite famous, and I should remember the towns that they studied. But, you know, one town was in an area where agriculture kind of stayed small, and there was lots of businesses, and it was very vibrant. And the other town was closer to, you know, this real industrial, you know, out in the middle of the Imperial Valley, and the support structure disappeared. Well, it's not people like me, and, you know, that do a few acres that are enough for that support structure. We need all of us. And we have so much to learn from each other, and there's so few of us. You know, it's less than 2% of the population in the United States is farming now. Not less than 2% involved in food. There's lots of people involved in food.
Yeah, I read that. Less than 2% of Americans
Actually
categorize
farm.
themselves as farming as an
Right.
occupation.
So we need every one of us. We need the wisdom of multiple generations on the same piece of land. You know, in my lifetime, I had to start from scratch. I didn't have any family, anything to pass down knowledge about anything. You know, I'm not a welder, I'm not a machinist, I can't manufacture stuff, and that was what the old farmers were known for, is making do with what they had. And I'm not that kind of a farmer. I need other people to make do, because I didn't learn how to do all those skills. My dad didn't have them. I didn't grow up, you know, learning how to do that. I'm pretty good at operating equipment, and I can fix some stuff, but I need an infrastructure around me to support. You know, we had a neighbor here for 30 years. He moved a couple years ago, but I probably couldn't have farmed if he hadn't lived here. He could fix anything and everything. He was just born and raised rural, and he just had that kind of mind, and God, he was invaluable to me for years. He lived right across the street, and I couldn't have done it without him. So, you know, that's why we can't afford to lose any farmers. We need every farmer out there, and we need to come up with sustainable ways to grow our food, and we need to come up with a way to pay them enough so that it's worth it for their kids to stay on the farm, and so they can take good care of the farm, you know. That's the other part about paying a reasonable amount of money for our food. When we're always nickel and diming the farmers down, they don't have money to invest, and everything suffers.
To put back in the farm.
Right. So it's, you know, they get by, they get by, they get by, they get by. The family struggles, they can't fix things in a timely way, they can't invest in soil conservation practices or wildlife enhancement. You know, all these things that are services that working farms provide that are too expensive for the general public to pay for. But if they were to just pay the farmer a reasonable sum so that he gets, you know, enough back to invest, that's where our sustainability comes from. And people should feel good about spending a little more money for their food. It shouldn't feel like a ripoff to them. It should feel like an investment. That they're spending enough money to pay the true cost of it. You know, and if they aren't spending their $150 a month on their cell phone and their $40,000 car and all the computer games, you know, it's a different value system. And that's again where I come back with your money is your vote. And if you spend it all on stuff instead of that which sustains us in terms of food and the resources necessary to provide stuff like heat and water. You know, our economy, you know, it's like, oh, we're not growing as an economy. Well, you know, I don't know that growth that they're talking about is sustainable. I think we need to invest in our own communities, what the true costs of production are. Stuff some parsley in it, and feel good about it, and know that we're not getting ripped off. We're investing in something that matches values that if we thought about it, we'd feel good about. So that's my bottom line. Your dollar's your vote. I don't even care if it's all organic. But local is what's really important. Supporting local farms that keep families on the farm, that provide enough income that the next generation wants to keep farming and can imagine farming, that's not so stressful because everybody is pushing them down and down and down. And, well, food is now global, you know, you can get it cheaper from South America. Well, yeah, it's great for the people in South America, but and I'm not against trade, I'm not anti-trade, but the world is changing, and at some point, if we lose all of the knowledge of how to protect our resources and feed ourselves and become dependent on exploiting peoples of other countries to grow our food, it just destabilizes the whole planet. This NAFTA agreement has left more people in third world countries starving than ever before. And they say, oh, well, you know, it's been good for some people. Well, it's also made their agriculture unaffordable for many. And the incidence of malnutrition is rising because more and more people get forced off their farms. They get forced into cities. There's not enough work. They can't grow any of their food. They can't forage wild plants. They lose their traditions. They lose the continuity of multiple generations being there for each other. And once it's gone, it's gone. So that keeps me going to meetings.